Hey guys, it's Nana, and today I'm going to talk about the books that I read in August. So August was a great reading month for me. I finished 8 books, and that's really great because normally I'm reading about a book a week, so yeah, let's get into it. The first book I finished was Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows, so now I've read the entire series, woo! I finished this one right at the beginning of August, and I mean, what can I say? It was awesome. Especially the last like 200 pages or so. I was like, oh my god, what's gonna happen? What's gonna happen? So I'm just really excited that I finished the series. I still have part 2 of the Deathly Hallows movie to watch, but other than that, I've read all the books now and I've watched almost all of the movies. And I gave Deathly Hallows a 4 out of 5. A few people have asked me, so I figured I might as well say I'm trying to decide if book 3 or 4 is my favorite, and I think I have to go with 4, because that's when I really was like, oh my gosh, like it just got real. The next books I read I'm going to talk about collectively, even though I read them throughout the month, and that is the Daughter of Smoke and Bone trilogy by Laini Taylor. I picked this up because Karina talked about it on her channel, and I was like, okay, that sounds kind of interesting, and I hadn't read fantasy in a while. Picked up the first book and I got sucked into the world. I thought the world was super interesting. This series, the main character, Karu, is a young art student in Prague, and she has a kind of unusual family. She doesn't really know where she came from, and she kind of leads 2 lives. In one life, she has to run all of these errands, and those errands involve collecting teeth. Weird, right? And in her other life, she goes to school and she draws and she has friends and she hangs out with them. So it gets to the point where her 2 lives collide and she starts to learn more about her background. I've already said that this is fantasy, so you can imagine that it contains some magical elements, some elements from other worlds. Yeah, that's a really vague description of the story, but you know my philosophy. It's better to discover it as you go along. So I read all 3 books last month and I really enjoyed them. I actually think I liked the second one most of all, which is surprising. Usually with a trilogy, you know, it starts here and then maybe it maintains the same level, but usually it goes downhill, and sometimes it goes really downhill, divergent. I actually enjoyed the second one most of all, and the third one was close up there, but it had a few bits that were a little bit of a letdown. To me, the best part of this series was definitely the world that the author created. It was just so interesting to learn all of these details, and just as things were uncovered and you figure out how certain things are connected, you're just like, oh, that's so cool. It's a world that's been through a lot. There's a lot of suffering and war and turmoil, but I just found the details of that world so interesting, and when I finished the last book I was like, I could read many more books set in this world because I just thought it was fascinating. There's definitely a romantic element going on throughout the books, and at times I was like, okay, it's fine, and at other times, especially towards the end, I was kind of like, alright, okay, we got it, we get it. But I don't mind romance, so it didn't bother me too much, but if you're really not into romance, you might be a little like, you might be a little annoyed by that. I felt like the end was kind of open-ended. Like, I think she could keep going or do a spin-off series. So the first book is Daughter of Smoke and Bone, which I gave 3 stars. The second book is Days of Blood and Starlight, which I gave 4 stars. And the third book is Dreams of Gods and Monsters, which I also gave 4 stars. So next up on my list was The Vacationers by Emma Straub. And this was actually on my summer TBR, so check. This is the story of a family that goes on a vacation to Mallorca, Spain, but it's not exactly the best of vacations because everyone is harboring some sort of secret. So as all of these secrets come out, you're wondering, is this family gonna stay together or is it just gonna dissolve completely? This is a character-driven book, so it's really about the individuals. Overall, I thought it was okay. So you know, when you have a character-driven story, you really need the characters to be interesting, and I didn't feel that they were that compelling. There were a couple that I was like, okay, alright, I was interested to learn more, but those characters in particular weren't really explored. And just in general, I think all of the characters felt underdeveloped to me. Yeah, I don't have too much to say about this one. It was interesting enough for me to keep reading, but again, I didn't really find the characters very compelling, and The setting of Spain was interesting to me because I love Spain, so that at least was a plus. Yeah, overall I thought this was just fine, and I gave it 2.5 stars. The next book I read was Where They Found Her by Kimberly McCreight. I read her book Reconstructing Amelia last year, I think, and I liked it, so I was like, okay, let me pick up this next book of hers. So this is a thriller, mystery thriller, and in it there's a reporter named Molly. Molly has recently lost a child and she's dealing with the trauma of that. She's also new to being a reporter, so she's constantly trying to prove herself. And one day, kind of by accident, she's assigned to cover a murder story, and it turns out that the person that was murdered was a little baby girl. So as you can imagine, this is really hard for her to handle, but she feels like she needs to stick with the story, partly because she feels so connected to it and partly because she wants to prove herself. Throughout the novel, she's trying to figure out who killed this little girl and why. I like this one. It kept me guessing throughout, and I definitely was intrigued the entire time, and I wasn't able to predict the ending, so that was good. It's set in a small town in New Jersey, and I like that setting because in small towns like that, everyone kind of knows who everyone is, and there's a lot of gossip and judgment, and that makes for a really interesting backdrop, I would say, for the story. It's told through different mediums, such as journal entries from Molly and some of the articles that she writes, also transcripts from her sessions with her therapist. And it's also told from different perspectives. So there's kind of a lot going on in this book, and I think the author mostly pulls it off. It does feel a bit like she kind of threw a bunch in there to throw everyone off the actual trail, and maybe she could have pulled back a bit on that. But overall, I definitely enjoyed this one, and I gave it 3.5 stars. Next up is 2 a.m. at the Cat's Pajamas by Marie-Helene Bertino. And this one I wanted to read for a while, especially after Katie from Effusions of Wit read it and loved it. And it's a story of a not quite 10-year-old girl named Madeline. Madeline's having a rough childhood. Her mother has died recently and her father is not really taking care of her anymore. She still lives with him, but he's not really involved in her life, and she kind of has to take care of him. And all Madeline wants to do is sing. The story takes place over the course of one day. Madeline hears about a local jazz club called the Cats Pajamas and makes it her goal to get there and see what it's all about because it sounds like something she would love. So it follows her as she takes that journey, and we also get a few other stories from different characters that are involved in Madeline's life. Yeah, this book was really quirky and fun and not at all what I was expecting. I found that the writing was experimental and kind of playful, and Madeline is not your typical little girl. She curses and she kind of like snubs adults, and she's not afraid to speak her mind, and she's kind of a little terror, but that makes for a really fun main character, you know. I found that surprising and interesting and different, so I appreciated that. I'd say the book is kind of about following your heart in a way. For Madeline, that's about trying to sing and show the world her talent, and for other characters that means something else. I like this one. It was interesting and surprising, and I gave it 3 stars. And the last one I'm going to talk about today is 800 Grapes by Laura Dave. It's a story of Georgia, who 1 week before her wedding, she leaves everything behind, gets in her car, and drives to Northern California where her family's vineyard is. And the reason she's left all of a sudden is because she just found out this huge secret about her fiance. She goes home hoping to find comfort in her family and to be able to figure out what she wants to do, but everyone in her family is not doing so great either, and they all have their own problems going on. This one is similar to The Vacationers in that everyone's kind of harboring some secrets, and it's about the different paths in life that we choose. I give this book 2 stars. This is like light, fluffy beach read. I felt like the family dynamic was written kind of strangely, like something about it was off to me, and I thought some of their interactions were really weird. Also, the writing, it was okay, but there were all of these sentence fragments, and I was just like, stop, where are the sentence fragments? That wasn't really for me as a style. I wanted a little bit more from all of the characters. What I did like was that it was set in a vineyard, so I thought the descriptions of wine was interesting and the whole process of making wine. I definitely wanted more from all of the characters, and I thought the book was pretty predictable. I mean, you could see everything coming from a mile away. So you know, it was okay. It's definitely like quick, easy, light read. Alright, I'm gonna wrap it up rather quickly before my card gets full again, but thank you so much for watching. If you've read any of the books that I talked about in today's video, definitely let me know down in the comments below, or let me know how you did in August. Did you have a good reading month? Was it a bad reading month? What were you reading? If you want to talk to me elsewhere, I'm on Twitter, Instagram, Goodreads, Snapchat. I will leave all of my links, usernames down below, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye! The panic! You can see the panic in my eyes! That red blinking light!